September was not a very good month for power in the sense that we suffered two major collapses. In fact, a near total system collapse. And this followed fires, you know. And so we can talk about that, especially against the backdrop of, look, there has been speculation as to the security of the whole thing in the sense that the particular feeders that do supply to our neighbor, Niger Republic, were those involved in this particular system collapse, coming something like 400 after CCN had, you know, celebrated, indeed encouraged itself that 400 days unbroken power, as it were, supply. This was when it happened. Okay, we'll look at that. As I said, it's in the realm of speculation, but it is a conversation point. And my first guest this morning is Mr. Ademola Adegoke. He's a communications consultant as well as a policy analyst. Good morning. Thank you.
Yori, and good morning, viewers at home.
Thank you very much for making yourself available. And we also have with us Mr. Adetayo Adegbemle, who is the Executive Director, Power Up Nigeria. Good morning to you, Mr. Adegbemle.
Good morning, Yori. Good morning, Lagos. Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Listeners.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have you. So we're going to start with you, actually, in the sense that we're not going to take any chances with the network coming up and all of that. I was just referring to the situation of the, I don't want to call it suspicious, but it was surprising. It was the surprising power outages that we experienced in September. Nearly one on the heel of the other, and the resultant implications. They were reported to have been as a result of fires. But first of all, give me, as a professional in the field, give me your look, your view of the whole thing. And this, as you know, there's been speculations that why is it that these particular feeds that have been supplying Niger Republic are the ones that went down?
All right. Thanks for the question. The interesting part of this thing is that the collapse and the fire incidents at the Kainji Jeba 132 line came barely a week after we were celebrating 400 days of no power collapse. The interesting thing is it was celebrating because it's probably the first time in the last 10 years we're having such a continuous performance by the grid. So yeah, it came as a surprise. Then, of course, part of the things that we're doing, part of the things that was raised also was the issue of the fire. With the transformers were not in close proximity. So there was no way one transformer will catch fire and will lead to the other one. So the whole scenario actually, raises suspicion into, what could have led to the fire. But we can only hazard a number of guesses. We can only look at scenarios that led to the fire, the conditions that surrounds it, the consequent statement by the union, telling the minister to face his job and not to involve GSS in the investigation, So, yes, it's a very suspicious one. And if it is sabotage, it's a very sad one, honestly. It's a very sad one.
Okay, we'll talk a bit more about it. Coming back to Mr. Ademola Adegoke in our studio, give me an overview from your point of view.
Yes, like he has just said, if there is, from the benefit of hindsight that one asks about the industry, transmission stations, there is in transmission stations there is a very high premium placed on safety of equipment, and it's rare for such fire incidents to happen even in quick succession the way they happened. The Kainji Jeba 330 kV line, and shortly after you have the Brini Kebbi substation
going down.
You know, also, you know, going up in flames. So you start looking at it that what could have happened. But, you know, it only tells us that electricity infrastructure being very, very critical infrastructure, playing so much an important role in the economic growth of the country. We need to, our security agencies, we need to up their game. We really cannot, you know, brush aside those speculations that perhaps something is actually fishy in that regard. So I want to align myself with that thought that maybe something is fishy. And again, you also look at it, you know, from the background that, well, you know, for 421 days, we were able, I mean, the nation was able to, for the first time in so many years, attain grid stability without recording any system collapse for more than a year. And shortly after, you know, that celebration, shortly after that announcement was made by transmission that we've been able to, you know, attain grid stability at least for 421 days. You know, you started, it's like they started coming in torrents. So you start raising, you know, highbrow as to what could have happened.
In terms of still staying on the speculation for a bit, just a teeny-weeny bit. So what would be the benefit of, let us say, any kind of sabotage? Here we were doing well. Yes, we're supplying power. There are a lot of people who have spoken about that power that we don't have enough here. You're supplying somebody, you're supplying Niger. It has been explained that, well, it's not quite as simplistic as that.
It's not as simplistic as that.
There are security implications and all of that too. But what would be the benefit? Who would want to sabotage?
Well,
theoretically.
You see, theoretically, we can only, you see, whatever we are doing here, maybe we still remain in the realm of conjectures. But then, you see, when something is missing, it is not out of place for you to drag your net, you know, so wide so that probably, you know, you can find it anywhere. So when something is missing, you look, you know, you look for it. You look at every corner for it, and that is exactly what we're doing now. So many things could have happened. It could be for political reasons. It could even be for economic reasons. It could just, you know, so whatever could have happened. But what we are saying is that, you know, ordinarily you want to look at it that there are two questions. Is it, you know, failure? Is it a failure of equipment or, you know, sabotage? Those are the two things you want to look at. Now, talking about equipment, the present transmission company of Nigeria, as an industry player myself, I have followed the activities and I've seen that so much investment, you know, has been made into system upgrade and network expansion. You understand? Between 2020 and now, 26 projects.
Exactly.
You know, 26 projects, you know, I've been embarked on and in near completion. Even in Lagos here, this has no doubt been very, highly contributory to the stability. To the stability.
You know.
Even in Lagos here now, we have, you know, 300 by 2 MVA transformers at Alagmo, you know, being installed. These are all, you know, moves to ensure that, you know, the system is not only stable, but also is able to wheel, you know, power, you know, from the generation point to the load centers. So all this, you know, with all these moves, one is now surprised, or industry players are now surprised that what is really happening. As to what could have been the benefit to those, I mean, if it is true that some people are actually into sabotaging the effort, only they, you know, but this is something that our security agencies can properly interrogate. And I believe that even in the investigation of those two incidents of fire outbreak, I think the security agencies are involved.
Indeed. Okay, Mr. Adegbenle, your thoughts too on this particular point that's just been brought up, that look, between 2020 and 2023, no fewer than 26 projects have been successfully sort of completed, And this has no doubt contributed to that, clean run of 400 days without a system collapse, only for this to now happen. What would be your thoughts? Because TCN has been investing in these development projects, and arguably they've been fruitful, and so it was also very highly encouraging, only to now come to, within a space of a month or so, we have two system collapses.
Hello, is that for me?
Yes. Did you hear me? I was.
No. Can you please come again?
Okay. Let me try again. I was saying your thoughts, please, on the fact that TCN has not been lacking in development projects. It's actually between 2020 and 2023, has completed so many of those projects, all of which, 26 in fact, which would have contributed in no small measure to the stability that we were all very, very happy about, only for this to happen. So it's like there was development, it was all working out, and now we find ourselves here. Your thoughts on that? Because we're leaning again, perhaps.
All right.
Sorry.
No. I got you this time around. I got this time around, and left to me, right? I will say maybe we should put a bit of light into the investment that TCN has been doing in the last few years. And I'm going to say this. This is probably the first time, and a big kudos to the last administration in regards to that, and the present leadership of TCN in Engineer Abdulaziz. This is probably the first time we're going to have this kind of consistent investment in a transmission grid. There was a time that when you talk to the discos, they will tell you the fault is from TCN. There was a time when you talk to the gencos, they will tell you the fault is from this TCN. But this time around, I think the story has changed a bit, because now we have some form of heavy investments. I mean, TCN has 10 regions across the country. In Lagos alone, there are presently over 26 projects ongoing. I think about 10 has been completed. In Abuja region, there are about 11 projects going, and that is how it is across the nation. So the only challenge, or the only reason why Nigerians might not be feeling the impact immediately, is because most of these projects, yes, they are capital intensive, and they take some time before they come on stream. They take as much as 2 years, sometimes as much as 4 years before they can come easily on stream. So maybe that's why we have not felt the impact immediately. But yeah, I mean, celebrating over 400 days without grid collapse is an indication that these installations or these investments are coming on board gradually, and we are seeing the impact too. Yes, the issue of the fire and the vandalism incidents in Kano is, I mean, like you said, but don't let us dwell too much on it, because as I speak to you right now, investigation is ongoing, and TCN has promised us that they're going to release the report once it is published. So, yeah, we can put it down to sabotage, because that's what you can see from outside. But at the same time, we'll wait for their report to come in. But when we're talking about investment, in terms of hardware, in terms of the SCADA is the real-time SCADA, real-time data acquisition system for the national grid. From there, you can monitor any part of the national grid. You can determine what happens. You can bring systems on board. You can take system offline without having to be there physically. You can monitor what is happening in remote locations. Unfortunately, the system that we had is not robust enough, and it's not able to undo where we are on the national grid. I came to understand that as late as August this year, the new project has been commissioned, and in fact, it's been ongoing. Yeah, we had some argument about the level of completion, the percentage of completion. But what we can say right now on the program today is that there is a new and advanced SCADA system that has been deployed to the national grid, so that it's going to be possible for us to isolate where there are issues immediately, instead of bringing down the whole nation, and the whole nation is thrown into darkness, and people will not be able to work for some days before we revamp back the system. It's also be able for us to be able to there is something also called the governor system. I am not an engineer, so I'm no, pardon me if I don't speak deeply into that. But there's something called the governor system, free governor system or something, so that you can help bring in generating plants into this grid without affecting or changing the frequency of the grid, which sometimes also leads to grid collapse.
Okay.
You know, all these things are ongoing, and what we are hoping for is that by the end, I mean, we started 2 years ago, so let's say in another 1 year, we will be able to celebrate more than 365 days or 300 days of no grid collapse once all these other systems are on, all these other installations, transformers are on board. And let me say this, there was a period where when a lot of people were, it was in the social media and the news, mega transformers, they are seeing mega transformers moving all over the place. It was the management of TCN that were moving those transformers from the warehouse in Lagos to different destinations and different locations where those installations were going to be made. So even if you don't know what the transformers were for, a lot of people saw those transformers when they were in transit, but they should also give us some more days. Power projects are never overnight projects. They are not projects that you start yesterday and by following day you see the result. It takes some time for them to be completed. The civil works alone, the integration with what we have already on ground, you know, all those things takes years, take months, sometimes years before they can be felt in the national grid. So yes, TCN has been doing a lot of investment. They've done, I'm going to repeat this. I think I've said it on a number of other platforms as well. I don't think there's any other government that has made such level of investment in the national grid than the last administration and the present leadership of TCN.
Okay. Mr. Adegoke, let's talk a bit more about this SCADA, SCADA. You know, it's important because as we've just heard,
very important.
Yes.
Because what it does,
it's all about monitoring, isn't it?
It is supervisory control and data acquisition device.
Exactly.
That is what
and
it
right
is.
now, where we are, it can't see. It can't see, as it were, all of the country.
No, it cannot see. It cannot see all of the country. The one in use now, but that does not mean that, you know. I think because it cannot see. Or the one we have now is not, you know, it's not, it cannot, you know, be, it's not as comprehensive in operation as it should be. Now there is a stopgap. He mentioned the fact that a new one, you know, the procurement for a new one, the process is on, you know, and that one comes with what he was trying to explain, automatic governor control. And that one, you know, monitors the generation end of the operation. Maybe we will come back to that, to the three legs of the supply industry: the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. We will come to that. But what SCADA does is that, you know, it monitors, you know, the operation. You know, the network, the grid, is a web of interconnected lines and transformers, and you know, so. At the transmission end, what SCADA does is that it monitors, it tells you what is happening so that you can have real-time response to issues.
Just as
you can have, but the one in use now, like I've said, is not as, you know, comprehensive as it should be. So what has been done is to have what is called Internet of Things, you know, as a stopgap between when this one, you know, when the new one will come in, and then it will take over from the old one. So now they use what they call Internet of Things. And that Internet of Things also, you know, it now, you know, complements what the SCADA, you know, but basically what the SCADA does is, you know, monitoring and control, like we have said, supervisory control and data acquisition. So you can know whatever that is happening within the system. It's all about about investment, you know, in the power industry. But, you know, like I was explaining that, you know, the Nigerian electricity supply industry sits on a tripod, you know, on a tripod of generation, transmission, and distribution. At the generation point, you know, at the generation when the power is generated, transmission now wheels, you know, the bulk power to the different load centers. And between these interconnected like I've said, line of transformers and line of interconnected web of transformers and lines. Anything that happens at one end, can impact on the other. So because electricity is such that you cannot store, you can't store electricity. Whatever is being generated, there must be a balance between what you are generating and what must be consumed. If you are generating and the off-taker, which is if you are generating or you are transmitting and the off-taker, the distribution companies, if for any reason they cannot take the load, it will still truncate the network. So all this we have to understand. But at the transmission end, because for long it was being said that the weakest link of the three was transmission. But with the investment that has been made in transmission in recent time, I think it is dropping that toga of being the weakest link of the three.
And why this is very important, coming back to you, Mr. Adegbende, why this is very important, the recent signing by the President of the Electricity Act empowers all the states of the country to actually generate their own. So everything that we've just heard will factor into that in terms of being able to monitor. So the sooner that we can get, as both you gentlemen were telling us, a more comprehensive coverage of SCADA or whatever can be done in the interim, the better. Otherwise, states that are going to be partaking, taking advantage of the fact that, yep, they can now generate their own, they're going to be, it's not going to be an easy ride for them.
No. The law itself does not guarantee that every state will be able to partake.
Yeah.
The law, what the law has only done was to create an opportunity for states to latch on and for them to do work on. So it's not as if the law itself is a guarantee that every state will be able to consume the law or to use the law.
But that those states that can, not everyone can, will actually be quite reliant on this whole SCADA thing.
And this is where TCN is also very important, because what we now have is a situation where TCN will now become the main backbone of the whole business going around, in the country. So if you want to within the state, yes, you are able to do your business. But say Lagos State, for instance, with their capacity wants to sell to your state, for instance, they will definitely need somebody like TCN to will that capacity to them.
I see. Okay. So and continuing from that, I guess we're still a bit far away from what we hear in other jurisdictions, where if you happen to generate your own, you can actually sell back to the grid.
Even presently, you have.
Even presently,
you have such. We have what is called captive power. We have, embedded power. We have all of that. Captive power. We have companies that generate their own power, and they are generating in excess of what they need. You understand? So if you generate in excess of what you need, the law now allows you to, sell to those willing, to buy from you. Then you also have the embedded, the embedded generation arrangement, whereby, discos can partner with companies that are generating, and then they take the power directly into their own distribution network without really going through transmission. But that is just, those are all, by the side. But talking about what we just said now, you just talked about the law allowing states to come up with their own electricity distribution, transmission, generation, distribution, and transmission and distribution network. Yes, but like you have said, it's not as if it's every state that will be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Presently, there are only a few states that have even enacted their own electricity law. You understand? And so when that comes up, the law also allows for, in addition to what we have as TCN now, the law also allows for ISO, in independent system operator. You understand that we, be complemented, because there will be mini grid. Presently, we have a mono grid system. So, but there will be mini grids here and there for states that are ready. You understand? But so the ISO will be the one to coordinate. But it's not like I said, it's not just going to be free for all that you just come. There will be there will still be regulation, and then even states will also have their own regulatory bodies.
Let me ask you, Mr. Adegbenle, what is the role, if any, at this time, in a significant sense, of solar when everything is up and running?
Renewable energy.
Yes, or renewable energy, not limited to solar. Is there optimism on that level?
All right, I'm one of those that continues to preach caution when we are eager to speak about renewable energy, especially solar. And not because it doesn't have its own role in the energy mix, but we have to be very cautious when we start adopting these things. One of the biggest drawback that we have in this country is that none of these technologies is local. So if anything that we need to depend on another nation, on another industry for us to be able to make any reasonable inroad, I preach caution. There is no nation in the world that has developed or industrialized using solar. I don't think Nigeria will be the first, because I don't even think we have the seriousness yet. Apologies for that choice of word. When I'm saying that, I'm talking in respect to places like Ghana, where we have solar farms with capacities of close to 200 megawatts. They're already feeding into the grid. We don't have any of such here in Nigeria. I don't know whether it is because our policies are not robust enough, or we are not, or our laws are not allowing for such integration. But we need to.
Oh, did we lose him there? But to continue, or maybe I should, I think I should go on a break now, so that, okay, stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Our planet, our home, threatened by man's activities with fears of mass extinction on the rise. On Green Angle, we examine the issues that affect our environment, seek solutions to put us on track to secure and restore a cleaner and greener world for generations to come.
Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the scope and of the current state of Nigeria's electricity power supply, especially as it relates to economic growth. And we've been hearing, about SCADA, which is a system that enables a monitoring of what's going on. And then also we talked very briefly about the recently signed electricity law, which will allow those states that can come into it be able to do so successfully. But the emphasis has been that it's not all states that will be able to take advantage of that. That's what we're talking about with Mr. Adegbemle, just before we left, Executive Director over at Power Up. I believe that you were just ending your point when we seem to lose your audio. Can you hear us better now? Yes? No? It's not better yet. Mr. Adegbemle, can you hear us? Mr. Adegbemle cannot hear us. Okay. So, but okay, be that as it may, he was speaking about he always wanting to advocate caution when we come to renewable energy, especially. And then, luckily, we saw one picture there as a graphic illustration of, and he then specified Ghana, for instance, seems to have gone farther than we would have gone. So I was going to ask what you thought about that, the fact that Nigeria is not ready yet. And he was saying that, especially as it's not locally based, and that was a concern. But it's not just, when I was saying solar, I sort of corrected myself to, let's just say renewable, because there are also wind farms as well. There are solar farms, there are wind farms. We're not... even though there's a popularity in solar panels, little solar panels.
I believe that it's an option that we have to explore. It's an option that has to be explored because the more of that we go into, the more stress we take off, the present system that we have. Because there are places that may not even need, the kind of bulk power that is needed elsewhere in the rural areas, and we have the Rural Electrification Agency and all of that. MSME is that we not even need so much power; they just need little power, so we can really explore that. So, even if we are not, even if he says yes, I agree with him that we are not doing enough in that regard, but that does not mean that it's an option that we cannot explore. We need to explore it. But I need to also speak to this. I also need to speak to this.
We have Mr. Adegbemle. We have him back on online. Mr. Adegbemle, we lost you just before you landed, and you were saying that you were, not too enamored of these renewable supplies, principally because they are not locally based or locally sourced. That sort of surprised me because I think I understand all the solar panels that we see are all imported. We don't have a situation where we can do anything ourselves apart from import them. So much so that in the markets now, there are even fairly used or, for domestic use, and they are so advertised. But how about the wind farms? Same situation? For the windmills, I beg your pardon, and consequent wind farms.
Yori, see, if we are talking about a situation or a scenario that we have not seen before, it's a different thing. We have our landscape here in Nigeria that is littered with all sorts of projects, And by the way, let me also say that hydro is considered renewable energy. So maybe if you are painting it, don't let us use too much broad strokes. Hydro is renewable, but we are yet to even maximize the capacity that we have with hydro.
Okay.
Yeah. But and when it comes to solar, we have, in fact, in Sura Market there, this project was done in between 2015 and 2017, ending. I doubt it if that project is still on right now. Sura Market in Lagos there. Anybody can walk into that place and go and see. And that was a project that REA, that's the Rural Electrification Agency, really celebrated because they were trying to energize the economy. We have the area market. In fact, it's sad that the project failed to the point that we started hearing people who are going to go and pick up their own solar panels to go and use for something else from that same market. The same thing with the market in Kano. Those are pilot projects that we have seen. So the question is, why did they go wrong? How did they go wrong?
Okay.
And there is a wind farm that Katsina 2 has been on for how many years now? We keep reading about it. It has never come on stream. So that's why I said, don't take me wrong. I've never said it's not going to work. I've never said it might not work, it won't work. But I preach caution when we think that is a way out. No. And see, part of the challenge that we also have is that because it's not working, because our system is not working, we have decided to cannibalize the grid. There is no stress on the grid.
Okay. Well, we seem to have lost you again. It froze for a moment, and there's a sense in which this is where I'm going to have to take your leave. Thank you very much for coming on, Mr. Adetayo Adegbenle, Executive Director at Power Up Nigeria Limited, and also to come to studio. The point was made in there that hydro itself has not been most efficiently deployed yet. We don't have the time for you to go into it, but do you agree with that by and large?
Let me quickly say this. You see, the Nigerian power supply industry is still work in progress. You understand? We may not be where we want to be now. Yes, the hydro, we have not fully explored, but what we just need to do is to, like the kind of investment that we have seen in transmission, if we continue in other, in other subsectors of the industry, there will be much improvement. If you look at the real-time response that TCN gave to the power outage on the 330 Kanji Jeba line and the Brini Kebi substation, that real-time response, that within a very short time, they came back, they came back on stream. So if we can be having such, investment in other subsectors of the power sector, I mean, we get to where we are going.
I want to thank you as well. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time, but thank you very much, Mr. Ademola Adegoke, Communications Consultant and Policy Analyst. And as I said before, we're also thanking Mr. Adetayo Adegbenle. At the end, we sort of lost communication, Executive Director at Power Up. Thank you both gentlemen for coming on the program. Okay, stay with us, please. There's more to come.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, how you misinform the public?
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest this time is Comrade Nelson Ekunjimi, Executive Director at Center for Social and Economic Rights. And very good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
So we're going to another area of yours because also it's about the security. I'm talking now about the EFCC and the appointment by the President of a new chairman following the resignation of the previous one, even though he was in suspension. Talking about Tinubu appointing Ola Olukoyede as the new EFCC chair. This, as was announced by the spokesperson for the president in Gilale, Ajuri Ngilale, was in furtherance of the president's agenda, reformist agenda, to complement other things that have been going. Your general comments, because well, for the first time, I think he's come out of not what we had thought that you had to have been in service, in a uniformed service. He's never been in a uniformed service, has he?
No, absolutely not. But he's not in violation of the
at all
of the EFCC Act, Section 2, subsection 3, which states that somebody, the EFCC chairman, shall be, somebody who is a serving or retired, officer of the security agencies or law enforcement agency. Having served in the EFCC, which is a law enforcement agency, for between 2016 till 2020.
As Chief of Staff?
First as Chief of Staff between 2016 to 2018, then as Secretary to the Commission between 2018 and 2020. That means within that period, he has acquired the status of somebody who has served in a law enforcement agency. Don't forget, I think people are also adding his consultative capacity before then, that look, nobody said that all of such experience had to be in the service.
In the service.
Yes, absolutely. No. The law is clear that you must have 15 years work experience. The law did not say either in the public or private service. And this is a man who is coming into the saddle with a 22 years, experience working in the private sector, in the corporate governance, world, as well as in the public service. So if you look at it from all parameters, this is a man who has cut his teeth within the, anti-corruption circle, and that is why he's eminently qualified to be at the saddle. And then whatever anybody has to say with regards to this nominee is within their rights.
Yes.
But, the law is very clear.
But this is a man thoroughly familiar with the operations of EFCC. Thoroughly familiar.
Absolutely.
Talking of which, Christopher in Yori has called in. Good morning to you, Christopher. Christopher in Yori, good morning. Christopher, is there a delay? Can you hear me?
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead quickly, please.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Tinubu, for appointing the new EFCC chairman. I think the most important thing here is this. We Nigerians, we are too fond of trying to check document of every person. See what school does he attend, where did he do this. I think the most important thing is the capacity of this man to deliver on his appointment. All the while, the successive government has been appointing either Commissioner of Police, AIG, to chair that office. Now, we have a different narrative now, which I think every Nigerian should have been clapping for. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But it's a man that said, I think, what to do and how to do it better. So what I expect even the opposition to do right now is to really sit down and check what this man can offer. Because as you see it, if you are going to appoint a retired police officer to chair that office, what do you think of it? Because if some of the colleagues happen to be in that mess, that fellow has to be retired. So for me, I think I see what you should be clapping for now.
It dwindled out, but thank you very much, Christopher, for calling in. Christopher generally approves, and the president, as it were, stepping out of the conventional, if you want to call it, line. What do you think about that, Nelson?
Well, it's not a new phenomenon with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You recollect when he appointed the National Security Advisor. If you look at our history,
yes,
it has always been retired military officers. He had to, change the game and appointed a retired police officer. And now we have seen that,
leaning on his experience, it seems.
Absolutely, yes, that this person is eminently qualified to do this job. And one thing you cannot run away from that is that in this administration, we have seen Asiwaju turn the game that in such a way that when we are all looking in one direction, it pulls, the magic from another box entirely. And what do I mean by this? everybody was like, oh, will he be a retired military man? Will he be a retired security officer? He has brought in somebody
that is neither.
That is neither, but
within the thoroughly knowledgeable,
within the purview of the acts. That we must not run away from that, no matter where he has brought it.
Because I've heard online the point that people who think otherwise might be inadvertently importing into the law that which was never in.
Absolutely, yes. I've even had the privilege of being on a media station this morning.
Okay.
And the presenter kept on hammering that Mr. President has. I said, read the act again.
Exactly.
The act is there. Said 15. He said the act said experience in the military or security. I said no. I went to school, and unfortunately for us, this is a period in which it's like a lot of our people didn't do comprehension in school. Maybe we have problem comprehending simple language.
They miss that.
Because the Nigerian Constitution is written in simple English for anybody to decipher, to assimilate. So the law is very clear that this person for this office must be either a serving or retired, must be of the rank, not below the rank of an ACP.
That's right.
Assistant Commissioner of Police. And as the secretary of EFCC while he was in office, the position he occupied, the status of that rank is the status of a DIG
in the police.
Because in the police. So if this candidate, this appointee, subject to the
and you draw that inference from the fact that that is the rank that is the head of admin in
the Nigerian police. Yes, that's the DIG. So if you look at this candidate, this nominee by Mr. President, you know that within the purview of the EFCC Act, is eminently qualified,
indeed,
to be appointed.
Christopher brought up a point that because of the, I don't want to, because of the nature of the appointment, the surprise element of the appointment, and Christopher also linked it to, look, he doesn't have colleagues like that in the military or in the police, and this is a man who is a consummate professional in anti-crime and security and this kind of a thing.
War.
Yes. So he can, it's like Christopher was almost implying that not to impute others with baggage, but this man, has little baggage, very little, if any baggage at all.
Well, I don't know of any baggage except if we import one. So for this
that, as I said, that is not to put that other people had baggage, but because they were coming from certain formations,
yes,
guys would say they would have had badges.
But we must also recognize the fact that when you come into a public office, or any office for that matter, you are bound by your oath. And that oath does not allow you to say, this one is my friend.
Okay.
Once the law is broken, the law must take its course. And this person we are talking about is somebody who has cut his teeth even in the private world. And he has also made his mark in the public sector, serving in the EFCC within these few years. And if, looking at the EFCC Act, this candidate meets the requirement of the law, then we don't have any issue than to applaud Mr. President's appointment, subject to the confirmation by the Senate.
It wasn't the only appointment that the President made.
Yeah, he made the appointment of the Secretary of the Commission
as well. The Secretary of the Commission
absolutely.
As well. That one is to run for that appointment
is a 5 year tenure.
Is a 5 year tenure, upon ratification by the Senate.
By the Senate.
But in the case of the chairman, it's a 4 year tenure.
Absolutely. We must not run away from the fact that we operate a constitutional democracy. Whether as a government, whether as a citizen, every conduct of ours must be guided by law. And whenever we find issues with conduct, whether government or individuals, our responsibility is to take it up, legally. So if anybody has any issue with this appointee, I would expect that such interest or person, the appointee is going to face the Senate, and the Senate, the Senate is not controlled by Mr. President. The Senate is an arm entirely different on its own, and that Senate as people of diverse professional calling. So you must be rest assured that before Mr. President makes this appointment, he must have dotted his I's and crossed his T's, that this candidate, having gone through all necessary checks, is eminently qualified, he has fulfilled the provisions of the law, and he's going to present him before the Senate.
And his appointment was enabled by the fact that the former executive chair of EFCC had resigned while he was on suspension for an unspecified crime of corruption.
That's another matter entirely.
That's a totally different setup. But there was, having resigned, there was a vacancy. It was vacant.
The office and the law allows, based on the fact that there's a vacancy, the law permits Mr. President that it gives him that authority to make that announcement. Had it been the former chairman was just on suspension and had not resigned, then we can be asking questions. But in this case, the man has resigned, and when somebody has resigned from an office, it means he's no longer there. That office
and a vacancy has been created.
Yes, absolutely.
Which must be filled.
Absolutely, because the agenda of government must run 24/7. There's no time to delay.
And all of this is in furtherance of the president's program of sort of a new
idea to fight corruption.
Yes, absolutely. Reformation and all of that.
And this candidate, Mr. Olukoyede, is an intelligence expert. So that tells you clearly that the fight against corruption under his leadership, based on his antecedent, will be more technologically
and is
driven.
Going to assume another dimension.
Yes.
All of which. Know that we'll have more time to talk about this, especially as we get to also know the gentleman, Ola Olukoyede, new EFCC chair designate appointment by the president. He has to face the Senate. We'll see how all of that goes. But
we wish him the best of luck.
We wish him the best, because that's the one thing that we do need is to clean up a lot of things that have been sort of very, very difficult in the past.
Absolutely.
So because of that, it's particular germane that you wish him luck. Thank you very much, Nelson.
It could be my turn tomorrow.
There you go. So that's our program. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. We don't do Saturdays and Sundays. I am Yori Folarin. Do have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.